one of the one of the things we always have to remember to do, and I'm really fortunate that Naomi comes, because then the button is going to get pushed, because I think last time we did it and Naomi wasn't here, we did this whole really elaborate 1 hour presentation and never got recorded. So if you're wondering, like, hey man, what was the recording of that last session? Oops, we didn't press the button. Okay, so tonight I'm gonna kind of run through a little presentation I put together about club infrastructure, because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but what I do for a living is I work with government infrastructure. And what I have found out is that infrastructure really dictates a lot of the quality of people's life. So yesterday, we went out to Ocean View, and as a lot of you know, we put together a fundraising project to raise money to get the Marshallese people who live down there. There's 180 families down there. Our 4-wheel drive truck and water containers and pumps and hoses, so that they could have access to clean water. Because without that simple infrastructure piece, very difficult to have any good quality of life. And so, you know, we had to sort of trace back the origins of how that whole thing started. And it really started with one of our Rotarians, Della Nakamoto on Maui. And she was part of this COVID group that was trying to send COVID sanitation supplies to the Marshallese people. And so she was boxing it, trying to get them all ready, sending wipes, bleach, all that stuff. And they told her, Della, thanks for sending all this stuff, but we don't even have water. So save all your supplies, you know. We can't even wash our hands. So that started the whole process of this whole thing. So anyway, about infrastructure. Then we're going to have a kind of a discussion about how it's going in your particular clubs, what we can do to help you make things go better. And then Naomi's going to kind of finish up with what things are coming ahead. Because, you know, those of you who have been in Rotary for a while, and even if you haven't been in Rotary for a while, you know now that that there's sort of a cadence to Rotary. Like as we go through the year, certain things happen during the year. Like usually this time of the year, September, we're doing our foundation training because we're getting ready for Foundation Month, which happens in November. This is usually our Polio Plus time of the year, and Roz knows that. We're getting geared up for a Polio Plus fundraising. And then it's also the time in which our clubs should be thinking about organizing club elections, which should happen in December, and Naomi's going to go over that. All right, so let me start now. I'm going to take a few minutes to kind of run through this. So this is actually a sort of a new idea that I've been working on, and you guys are actually going to be the first folks who are going to see this thing. So. All right, hang on a second. Okay, so can you guys see that? See that? Everybody like thumbs up? It's good.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, so we're gonna talk. I'm gonna actually minimize this so that I can see the screen here and pull this down on the bottom. Okay, so critical club infrastructure. And how I came up with this is just really kind of by observing clubs over the years and taking note of things, taking note of clubs that really struggle in certain areas, and then clubs that are really vibrant and they seem to do really well all the time. And what I notice about those clubs that seem to do well, they have critical infrastructure pieces in place that allow them to thrive. Okay, so like I said, in my work, I do work in infrastructure, and so what what I know and what one of our basic tenets of what I do is that infrastructure determines quality of life, right? So there's transportation, there's communication, there's health, there's national defense, banking, all the stuff, critical infrastructure sectors, right? And so for us, just like in our daily lives, we know that we need electricity, we need water, we need sewage, we need internet, all of those things to basically give us the quality of life that we want. Well, Rotary clubs are basically the same way, right? So unless a Rotary club has some basic infrastructure pieces in place, and those pieces are sustainable, which means that they can repeat itself over and over and over again, clubs or a club can really struggle. So I want to go over just sort of these 8 ideas that I have. We're gonna, after I close it out, I'm gonna open it up and we're gonna chat a little bit about it. Okay, the first thing that a club needs is they need an engaged board. All right, and typically, I mean, you can have a small board, just like 5 members, but it has to be club members that are really committed to the success of the club. Now, those board members have to know a few things, like, the club bylaws, know what the club bylaws are, and they're operating the club in accordance to the bylaws, and also the Constitution of Rotary International. Not so critical, but bylaws are super important. So you need an engaged board that's totally committed to the success of the club. The second thing is you need a strategic plan. Now, in our Vibrant Club workshops, we go over, basically piece by piece how to put together a strategic plan. But even if you wanted to just, scratch it on the back of a napkin, it comes down to just basically 4 things, right? What are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Who's going to do it? And then when are we going to do it? I mean, if you just got your club together or your board together and said, all right, let's talk about these 4 questions, by the end of an hour or so, you could scratch out just really a basic strategic plan or a map basically to go forward. Because like a lot of us know, if you don't have a goal in mind, or you definitely don't have a plan, the chances of you not going anywhere are really pretty good. And and Naomi has these statistics. I remember we were talking about them in a meeting one time about the difference between clubs that have a strategic plan and clubs that don't have a strategic plan, just in terms of all of their metrics, right? How many members, what is their foundation giving, what is the service projects. And the clubs that do have a strategic plan, or at least a plan for where they're going, clearly a lot more productive than clubs that don't. All right, the third thing, and I know that this may sound like a really obvious thing, is that you got to have a reliable place to meet, because there are clubs right now that don't have a regular place to meet. Like they lost the place that they were meeting during the pandemic, and so they're just sort of bouncing around a place to meet. And a club needs to have like a physical place to meet, someplace that's accessible, and that sometimes that's a problem. A place that's affordable. I know that in the place that we used to meet before, in the setup that we had with the hotel, it just wasn't affordable for our club. So we changed and moved upstairs to the restaurant, where we just ordered stuff on the menu and paid as we go. And that made it a lot more affordable, because when we polled our members and we said, do you guys want to move to another place? Most of the members just said, no, we don't want to move, because we like this place, it's comfortable, and the parking is good. And those were 2 key elements. So we just had to change the financial arrangements so that it could be more affordable for our club, but they wanted to stay in the same place. So having a reliable meeting place is one of the key infrastructure pieces that you have to have. All right, an active and predictable calendar. So some of you, have heard the presentations that we do on calendars, but it's an active calendar that drives activity in a club, and it helps members to plan to engage, right? So because if you don't have an active calendar, then people are like, they have nothing to look forward to. They're not sure where the club is going because there's no plan for that, right? So one of the things we just finished in our club about 3 weeks ago is we published the calendar for the rest of the year. Every meeting, every fundraising, every social event, everything from now until the end of the year. And that really helped our club members to engage more because now they knew when the meeting days were going to be, they knew what the next service project was going to be, they knew when the next social was going to be. And people actually join Rotary. One of the reasons that they join Rotary is to participate. And nowadays, where things are booked so far out in advance, you got to get it on the calendar if you want people to participate. So it has to be active and it has to be predictable because, some clubs will have a calendar, but then the calendar changes every month. And so people are really challenged sometimes because they don't want to change. And so if they know that the meeting is going to be the first or the third Tuesday or the second or the fourth Tuesday, and you can stay on that pattern, that helps them to be predictable. It's kind of like having a relationship, right? You want to have a sort of predictable relationship where, if you come home, your spouse is you have a pretty good idea of how you're going to get greeted, right? You don't want to be guessing about that one every time you come home. Okay, and then 5 is just a regular way to communicate with club members. So when I started in my Rotary Club, a lot of the old timers in our club, or the legacy members, they didn't have computers, didn't have cell phones, didn't have any way to connect electronically. So at the end of every meeting, we would produce a little newsletter for the next meeting, and we would print them out and we would hand them to anybody that couldn't really go to the website or who didn't get the newsletter electronically. That's the whole kind of equity piece, right? Is that you have to really kind of take a look. You might say, oh no, everybody, we put it online and anybody can read that, or anybody can go and look at our stuff online. But what if you don't have a computer? I mean, Zeta was just telling a story at work about her father because they were talking about posting a whole bunch of stuff online. I mean, the guy has a computer, hasn't turned it on in 10 years, has a cell phone, but doesn't know how to use it, right? So you have to have a regular way to communicate with members. And I think that's one of the key things that we see in clubs that either thrive or they struggle, is the ones that thrive have a way to communicate with their members regularly, like every week. So everybody knows what's going on. When Zeta became president of our club, I said, hey, every Sunday, you got to get that email out to every single person in the club so everybody knows what's going on this week. Okay, the 6th thing is you have to have an inclusive core group. Core group it doesn't necessarily have to be your legacy members. It doesn't have to be that group. Okay, it can be anybody that wants to be committed to the club, that wants to participate, and that wants to be involved. That's a core group member. So we have a guy who just joined our club 2 months ago, Len Miyazono. Len Miyazono has been a Rotarian for 6 weeks now, and he's a core group guy because he's made a decision that he wants to be involved in Rotary. That he's going to come to the meetings, he's going to come to the socials, he's going to come to the service projects. And so when you have a core group of people that are committed to the success of the club, these are the people who create the club culture within your club. So those of you, in your work, you know that your business might have a our business culture, or the club, or the culture of our business. All right. Well, what culture means basically is how you act and how we behave together and how you treat people. That's basically your club culture. And so if you have an inclusive core group, the club culture is going to be really good. I think I'm out of order here, right? Because I thought we just did 5. Okay, sorry. Still learning to count.
You
Okay.
had 2 5s.
Yeah, I have 2 5s. Well,
Yeah.
I thought, well, 1 5 is good, but 2 5s could be better. Okay, I'll change that. Thanks. Thanks for pointing that out. Okay, and so 7 is systems and processes. Okay, is that so if you have a system and process to help your members learn and engage quickly in club activities. Like Connie's club is really good about that, right? So you join Rotary Club of Hilo, you're going to get information like immediately that's going to help you to onboard, to basically help you to learn information about their club, about what they do. You have to have processes to basically do club dues, those kinds of things. You have to have systems for how meetings get set up, how they get taken down, how you handle new members coming in, how you handle guests. All of those systems and processes, you have to have those so that people can learn and they can engage quickly in your club activities. So like in our club, when the COVID kind of shut us down, we went to online, right? And when we came back, a lot of people had left. So we had to kind of start all over and trying to put our systems and processes back into place. And that's where I could see that if you didn't have some systems and processes in place, that it was really going to be challenging for you to get anything done within the club. Okay, and the last thing is that you have to have successive leadership, right? Which means that you have to have people in place that are going to buy into this whole idea of critical infrastructure amongst your clubs, within your club, and then they're going to do things to help to support that, right? One of the things that I see clubs really struggling with is like, okay, who's going to be the president-elect? All right, so now we're gonna do elections now to see who the president nominee is going to be. And a lot of clubs, we have the president-elects right now. I think Naomi, we have 20 clubs right now who don't have a president-elect, right? So trying to set up successive leadership is super important. That you have 3 people sort of kind of lined up, and you're getting them ready to take that position of leadership. So working on that. I see the clubs that are successful, they have their leadership kind of figured out, right? Okay, and so the last thing is that sustainable infrastructure, if you have that in your club, it kind of determines what your club experience is going to be. And why is club experience important? Well, because we find out that the number one reason why people stay in Rotary is that they have a positive club experience, right? And that's everything from, people are welcoming, people make me feel wanted, there's stuff to do, there's ways in which I can participate. It was easy to learn about Rotary. We were on a regular schedule. We had a really nice place where we could meet, and the parking was really easy. We got newsletters. We get newsletters or emails every week. I mean, all of these infrastructure things that I just been talking about, these are all part of basically the club experience that Rotary talks about in terms of being able to maintain people or maintain people within your club. So anyway, that's tonight's sermon. So we'll pass the hat and you can Venmo me your contribution. Anyway, I'm open to any thoughts about that. Okay. So you guys, I put that thing together because I've been thinking it for a while. And so what is your thought about that? Connie, since I mentioned you in my talk, I feel like now you're obligated to say something. Now, yeah, and you don't even have to be positive about it. If you're thinking like, man, that was 15 minutes of a waste of time, you can
Oh,
tell me that
I
because
would,
yeah.
I would never say that, Benson.
Yeah,
I
but
think
you
it's
think you would think,
awesome.
well, that's okay. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think you pretty much covered everything. That's like, wow, I didn't think you could do that in just 8 points, but yeah. So what do we do with this now? How do we take it to the next step, I guess? I mean, I think it's great.
Okay. Well, you know, Roz, you've been around a long time. What's your thought about that?
I really like the way you have it together and the points that you're making because actually you need pretty much all of those in order to be successful. And if you take a look at it in more detail, it's really not something you might think, oh, that's so much and it's so expensive, but it's really not. Once you start working on it, it just fits. And I love, even though
Tom,
it doesn't have
yeah,
25s.
I see you unmuted, Tom, so I think you're going to say something.
Well, I'd like to thank you first for putting that together, Benson. I think it was very well done. And
Thank
for
you.
someone like me who's president-elect and trying to figure this out, it's very helpful. So my question to you is that going to be available to us? Is that something that I can get and maybe go through and fix up a little bit from that for my board when it comes time for me to start putting them together and putting our plan together?
Sure, I can email it. I can email it to you. Yeah, at any time. So any thoughts that we want to add or maybe adjust or take out or whatever? I mean, this is actually I didn't even go over with Naomi yet. I just kind of put it together and I told her, oh, tonight I'm gonna put this thing out there on club infrastructure. So Naomi, what do you think? Are there things that we can add, modify, we can improve on that thing? Because what I'm kind of shooting for is kind of this little checklist of things that go beyond membership, foundation, and public image, right? Because like when you go to pets, you're going to get that. You're going to get Rotary strategic priorities, right? But not so much what does it take for you to develop infrastructure in your club so that your club can succeed. But you're going to learn how to do how to get more members. You're going to learn about public image, and you're going to learn about what the foundation does and why we need to give the foundation, which is all really, that's the essence of what Rotary is. So but anyway, Naomi, what's your thought?
Well, I think every club is different, and you would
Right.
customize. So it's a good boilerplate, and you customize it to your club. Because for Tom's club, it's going to be way different than maybe Kat's club and her We Rotary Club.
Right.
And by the way, Kat is she probably is at midnight. Where are you, Kat?
Where
And
are
what
you,
time
Kat?
is it?
I'm in Alaska. It's only 9:30 here now.
Oh, okay. Because I'm thinking, wow. I mean, I hope it's not 5 o'clock in the morning. You just got up. So, but thanks.
Good to be, good to be with you, Benson and Naomi. I so appreciate your wise guidance.
Yeah,
I have
okay.
a question.
Sure. Go for it.
I think this is great and it totally flows. I mean, everything makes sense. Number 6 or your second number 5.
Yeah. 5A.
The,
Yeah.
yeah, 5A, the inclusive core group. How would one create that? And how would you figure out who should be in the core group? And should you make that like
a like a formal thing where you say, hey, you, and you, I want you guys to be in my core group? Or
No,
does that just kind of flow organically?
well, the core group is basically they're sort of self-identified, right? They're people that are the guys that come to your meetings all the time. They're your volunteers that show up. You know what they typically say is that, you know, in a Rotary Club, so if your Rotary Club has 20 members, then, you know, half of them are going to be pretty active, and half of those guys are going to be basically the core group that's going to be doing everything for the club. So, you know, like for me, if I went into a club, I would say, all right, here's my thought about who the core group is. The core group of this club are the people, probably some of you guys sitting right here, that support the club, that come to the service projects, come to the meetings, donate to the foundation. All right, who in this group sitting in this meeting considers them a core member of this club? Okay. And they're going to self-identify, because I think that I think it's really dangerous to say you're a core group and you're not. So I think it's one of those self-identified things. Like when Len Miyazono joined our club and we were having a discussion about being in the core group, and I said, a core group member is somebody who's dedicated to this club, wants to participate, wants to come to the meetings, wants to be in the service projects. I said, and you can be a core member of this club whenever you decide that you're going to do that. And he raised his hand and said, can I be a member? I said, you absolutely can. You just decided that you're going to do that. So he comes to every meeting. He's at the service projects. Da, 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 da. So it's kind of a self-identify.
So it's a formal group. I mean, you'd stand at the podium and go, hey, we're looking for a core group.
I don't know. I don't think I would. I would do it kind of like that. What the core group really is are and you can see them in your club. They're the people that will come to the club. They'll come to the meetings, they'll be at the service projects, they identify themselves. It's kind of a self-identified thing. Like I'm a member of the core group because I want to be, because that's my level of commitment to Rotary. So like I would say in our club, there's probably 10 or 12 members that match that definition. They come to the meetings, they're going to be at the service projects, they're going to pay their dues, they're going to, but here's the thing, right? If you have a group like that, they have to be an inclusive group. They have to be a group that wants others in the group, that wants to grow the group, because otherwise you're a clique, right? And I know that when I joined Rotary in my club, there was one, like a core group that ran the club, and they were the ones who decided who was going to be included in the core group and who wasn't. And that's not the point of it. The point of it is getting as many people in your club to be committed to the success of the club and to participate as much as you can.
And
So
Connie really wants to say something.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, no, I didn't read. No. A question. So I like all the 8 points. And I guess what I want to know is, looking at it, this is obviously the ideal club, right? That, has everything in place like this. So as learning facilitators, because that's what we're here, right? Learning facilitators. Then how do we put these into practice? And do you have suggestions on how we can use this and how we can work towards this in our club without being like, okay, this is my concern is I don't want to be real bossy.
What?
Hey, stop that. Okay, I know I am bossy. Okay.
So,
Stop it.
it's funny when Naomi laughs, then that just really struck
Okay, okay.
a funny chord.
All right, I'll rephrase that. I know I am bossy, but I don't want to appear bossy. So how do you, as the club learning facilitator, like it's, like put yourself in there and try to help when you have a club president and a vice president? So I'm not quite sure how to do that without, appearing bossy. Okay, so
All right.
that's my question to Benson and Naomi.
Okay.
And thanks for laughing, Naomi. Wow.
Well, when I put these things together, yeah, you're right. It's the perfect club, and I don't think anybody. It's kind of like what's a perfect 10, right? And so you want to put those things out there, and people can aspire to it. So like how I envisioned it. Let me just kind of take you back to this slide. That it would be like this. You guys can see that we would have, here's our critical infrastructure sectors of each club, and then we would have those sort of around it like that, right? And so, I mean, obviously, like critical infrastructure, not everybody has all of these things, right? But these are the things that help to create the quality of life that you want. And so, that would be just something that clubs could aspire to. I mean, obviously, each one of these sectors, we could break it down and talk about, how you could achieve certain levels of that. It's kind of like, you have your membership foundation, you have public image, right? And so membership, you can break that down into 20 different levels of that, right? Same thing with foundation, same thing with public image. So it's really sort of designed to act as kind of a guideline if you're looking to try to look at this, get this holistic view of your club. Like, what does my club need beyond that? And the reason that this sort of I started thinking about it, I've been thinking about it for years, is that we do in Rotary have a lot of emphasis on membership, foundation, and public image, right? And so, and that's typically what we get in pets. So when we're coming back from pets, all the president-elects are saying, wow, I didn't learn anything I needed to learn to run my club. I learned a lot about membership, foundation, public image, but how do I run the daily nuts and bolts of what it's going to take to be president of my club? And so that's what this is about. It's like, okay, what are the other things we need to work on to make it go? So go ahead, Roz, and I want to sort of continue to go on, otherwise we'll keep going. Go ahead, Roz. What's your thought?
Okay, I like these, and I wouldn't call them steps because you don't need one to get to the other.
Yeah.
But I like this plan. If I could include one other, it would be total club involvement. And
Yeah.
total club involvement is that you have your core group, you have these other groups that you have. But if you don't get your entire club involved, even in the smallest part of it, like introducing a guest or being a greeter, they're not going to feel like they're a part of the club.
Good.
And I think that's going to lead to leaving the club and going someplace else.
I like that. Okay. That's like total access. Okay, that's good. Okay. Anybody else have a thought on it? Dave, Jerry, Tracy?
Can you come and teach this to my club?
Yeah, well, I'd be glad to come and talk to them about it. I think, and Naomi, you should participate in this conversation because I know you've seen a lot of it too. When I go to different clubs, each one of them, like Naomi said, each club is different, and each club sort of has their own issues about certain things, right? But what I have seen is that it's not something like some rare disease or something like really out of the ordinary. It's a version of something that we've seen before, right? Where there's poor communication in the club, like Ross was saying. Only a small number of people in the club are engaged, and so maybe you need 100% engagement. We go to a club and ask them, all right, well, one club invited me to help them do strategic planning, and I said, okay, so when was the last time you did this? And they said 5 years ago. I said, okay, well, where's that plan? And said, oh, it's sitting in Bill's desk, where we left it 5 years ago. And I said, okay, well, first thing is, you got to have a plan that you can actually use. And so, I think what I was hoping to do with this is to work, and those of you guys that are assistant governors, to work with the assistant governors so that, we have a way that we can go in and look at clubs and recognize areas in which they might be struggling. And that between Naomi and I, we could develop ways in which we could put some kind of training or remedy to it so that we could help them. So go ahead, Naomi.
I was thinking that Dave Mostrin has something to say because
Well, when Dave turns his camera on, that's a big thing. I'm like, whoa, hey, he's coming out, baby.
Okay.
All right, Dave.
That's because I hit the wrong button.
What's your thought? You always got something good to say. So
I agree that each club is unique. I think some of the big struggles that a lot of us are having is that participation side is, how do we get everybody, not everybody, because you're never going to get everybody. But how can you get a majority of your club involved and engaged? And because it puts a lot of stress on those clubs that have a small core group that does all the work. And then you get burned out. And sometimes, and even in our club, we had someone that was gung-ho and he joined and he became a president-elect. He quit right before his year. Yeah. And he just said, I got burned out. And so you do need to be cognizant of the fact that, recognize when you have those situations and also figure out, talk to others in your club to see how you can get them involved to become part of that core group or that group that is willing to participate that they haven't been before. Sometimes that just requires a personal invitation to do so.
Yeah. And I think spreading the work out is important too. Kat, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, Dave, I wanted to empathize with you. You're not the only one who went through that. That happened to us in March this year. The fellow who had been attending all of the trainings just felt like it was too much paperwork, too much meetings, too much reporting requirements, too much time. And so even though he had gone through all of the training up to the end of March, he then decided not to become the president. So yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to say you're not alone. And we're still going. We're still kicking.
No, it'll continue. It's just like I said, figure a way to try to get more of your members involved and spread the load out. That's kind of important. And try to get them passionate about what you're doing and how they want to get involved.
We've had some buzzwords about club culture, and last year it was comfort and care for your club. This year is making your club irresistible. And I think it gets to that bottom line, what Ross was saying about getting everybody inclusive and involved and engaged in your club. So how do you make that club something that is irresistible, that people want to be there? And it is the core group, but you could call them anchors. You could call them the Alakai. So the club trainer, we thought, you say club trainer, the title changed in July 1st to Club Learning Facilitator. And so we thought that Alakai would be a better word for the club trainer because you're the person who can help guide the club. And so the club Alakai is really important to bring everything together and be inclusive, because you don't want to have that core group that is bossy, or they're doing they want to do it their way and it's not inclusive. Okay, so how do we get there? So Vincent, can I go into being a Alakai?
Go for it.
Okay.
Go. Thank you.
Okay, good. So being in so let's go back to what is an Alakai. So the Alakai is, according to Rotary, it's the learning facilitator, but we're calling it Alakai in our district. Rotary says that you're essential in developing leaders. You share your experience. So we're talking about best practices and how our clubs are different and what works, maybe what doesn't work. And you're going to help provide the skills that can help the club succeed. So there are lots of training, but these meetings that we have together to share best practices, I think is a good thing. So you know you're not alone, and maybe somebody has a really good idea of what's working. So what we need your assistance in, because the Alakai is like Alan's not here today, but he said you're the co-pilot. And so you're helping the board, helping the president-elect move along on what needs to be done. So it's not all on the PE. So it won't be overwhelming if they've got people that can help do things and figure out what needs to be done. So right now, the club needs to qualify for grants for next year. So we did the training, so need 2 people at training, preferably one is the president-elect. We have 3 documents to sign. We need the federal tax return and the GED filed now, because that actually is due. So we need all of these documents by January 31st. So if you want to check to see if it was done so that you can qualify for grant funds next year, you might want to check in and see who's doing what, who's responsible. And then we have some training coming up. This year's grant funds, we still have a lot of grant money to pass out because we're still waiting for bank statements. You need to show that you've got your club cash on deposit in your the club grant account, and then we'll put the money in your account so you can do your grants. So if you can check on that too, because we've got a whole bunch of clubs that haven't sent in their bank statement, and we're sitting on this grant money that we want to get to you so you can do your projects. So what are the things that are coming up? Okay, so we have this on the calendar. So if you go to the district website, we do have the calendar with the Zoom links, and we're Benson's sending out a newsletter on only training, on what's coming up on training. But for you as the Alakai, if you can think about what's coming up and encourage the proper person to attend those sessions, it will help have more people involved, more people know what's going on, and they know that you've got their back. So trying to be more inclusive with more people involved. So coming up this Saturday from 9 to 10, we're going to be talking about international service projects. So, hey, Danielle, maybe we can talk about something for South Africa. We're going to talk about global grants. How do you do a global grant? Then from 10 to 11:30, we've got foundation planning. So get the people who are involved in your foundation team, your committee, to come and hear what the best practices on what they should be doing in your club on foundation. We've got World Polio Day coming up. We've got Foundation Month coming up in November. So if you parcel out these things to different people, then it's not overwhelming. But you're like the gatekeeper, the conduit that can help with getting this information out. Okay, Saturday also, 3 o'clock, we're having this session on the Singapore Rotary Convention. So we're going to talk about how to sign up. We have a room block, so if anybody wants a room in our block, we have 25 rooms that are reserved only for us. And we'll talk about Singapore and the culture in Singapore. Like, do you have to tip? You better not chew gum, kind of thing, in Singapore. But we also have the youth service group meeting every month. Connie has the membership chairs meeting every month. We've got the mental health group meeting every month. So these are meetings that people can go to hear what's going on in their avenue of service, and they can share best practices. Okay, so then Benson has on October 7th Leadership 101. So you want to develop some leaders, you got some young people, or it doesn't have to be young people, you want to develop leaders, ask them, would you like to come to this Leadership 101 course? And they can learn about, some skills to be a leader. Then October 7th, we have the Global Grants Project Fair, because that's where you can hear what's going on with the global grants, who's doing a global grant in our district, because November 1st, we want your pledge on your allocation for global grants. We want to know where you want to put that money. So if you're doing a global grant and you want people to put money in, this is where you can pitch your project. Okay. Let's see, October 11th, we have the Junior RILA. So that's for middle school. So if you've got a youth service person, ask them. And let your club members know, do you know any kids that are in middle school? Would they like to go to this free RILA? It's online. So they learn about, they learn leadership skills at that age. They can meet different people from around the state. A lot of good things we have going for all kinds of different people, because we want to reach people and kind of cater to what they're interested in. So we have on October 14th, our nominating committee, our district nominating committee is going to be looking at all the applications for district governor in the year 26-27. This is the year that we're going to have the convention in Honolulu. So that district governor needs to be really strong, because we've got to keep our district going while the HOC, the host organization committee, is taking care of all of the convention things. So our district is going to be split, because people are going to be working on that, and then we've got our regular district things to take care of. So go back to your clubs and see, is there someone in your club that would make a really good district governor? Someone who's been a past president, someone who knows, who can run the district with all of the committees and has good leadership and managerial skills. So we've got to manage all of those district committees. Okay. Then anyone who missed the grant training that we have another chance, and this is on Monday, October 16th, where we'll go over all of the grant qualification requirements and the process. And then we have the Alakai's again, October 16th. So this is the calendar that is the things that are coming up. So if you could let people know what's coming up, let them know what sessions they can come to. They don't have to come to everything. We don't want to make it overwhelming. We want to parcel it out so it's manageable. Okay, but foundation for October and November is really important. So if you could please help them on planning, what are they doing for World Polio Day? What are they doing for Foundation Month? And Roz will go into that on Saturday on helping the foundation chairs plan. Okay, so any questions on this calendar? Oh, okay, we have the calendar on the district website. There is a place for information for presidents. Okay, so let's go into governing body, because we're here because in October, this is where the club should be putting together a nominating committee for club positions. And people do their club elections differently, and let's talk about that in a little while. But according to the recommended club constitution on the Rotary website, the governing body is the board, okay? And the authority is with the board. So the board action is final. So let's build up that board with people who are doing the club business for the club. So October, you form your nominating committee. November is where you call for nominations. And then you give the 30-day notice before your annual report, your annual meeting, sorry. Annual meeting should be done before December 31st. And this is where your annual meeting is going to be to elect your officers and you're electing the president for 18 months from now. So in December, you're electing a PE, and the PE is not for the July coming up, it's the July after that, okay? Because your president for the July coming up should have been elected last year. So if you can get into this rhythm of electing your officers, then you've got your leadership lined up. And if you can go 5 deep, that'll be even greater, looking for the president nominee who's following. But if you don't, think about who you can start to build up, who you can bring into your committee so you can help them learn how to be a president, how to learn how the club works so that they can be ready when it's time for them to be the president. They also need to report on the financial situation on your club. So, I hear stories of, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how much money we have. I don't know where we stand on financial, the financial situation with our club. They're charging us more. I don't know where the money is. So this is where your treasurer or your finance committee should be reporting to the club to be transparent on what's going on. Okay, so if you could help set that up, that would be great. So your nominating committee, people have different ways of nominating. And so sometimes the president-elect will pick their own people. I've seen sometimes that doesn't work because maybe they don't know enough people. They don't know how the committees were working. So if you could have the board help with, or the executive committee help with putting together the slate, then you have more heads, more experiences, and you can share, what's going on. So your nominating committee could be the past 3 past presidents or the 5 past presidents, and they can help put that board together. So assess what your positions are. Do you need them? Do you need to morph them? Do you need to cycle off people if someone's been on the position really long? Maybe you want to cross-train them in another position. Do you need new blood? So really think about how your nominating committee is going to work and how you're going to do your election. So sometimes your election could be, we're just going to put out everybody's name and you're going to have a vote. And the one with the highest vote gets the position. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So talk with your board and see what kind of election you're going to have. Normally you have the slate up and you've already talked to people, so they're not surprised when their name goes up in December. But you want to really try and get everybody elected in December, because when we do our training assembly in March, April, we want those people, the incoming board people, to go to those training so we can help them with what they need to do with their position. Okay, so the board normally would be your president, and your immediate past president is an automatic position on the board. Then your president-elect, vice president, but you can change this up to what's going to work. The terms of the office would be for 1 year. Your nominee is at least 18 months in the future. Your president automatically takes the position July 1st. Okay, and what are the qualifications of the president? Is the president should have been in your club for at least a year. If there's some circumstance that is not the case, that you might want to seek your governor's guidance or your assistant governor's guidance. Okay, the president-elect needs to go to PETS training, and in our policy manual, if they've been at PETS, if they've been a president more than 3 years ago, they have to go to PETS. Okay, then if your president-elect doesn't go to training and assembly, then guess what? The current president is still the president. So maybe a leverage incentive to get a new person there. So really think about who you can help be a future leader in your club. How can you develop your leaders so that they are inclusive? They know what's going on. They're anchors in the club. They want the club to succeed, and they're doing it for the club members. So think about your succession planning, and when you do your strategic plan, when you do your nominating committee, and then you can build up your board, build up your club that way. So let's talk about, how do you guys elect your board members? Who has a committee, a nominating committee? Okay,
Whoever
good.
leaves the room gets nominated PE.
Uh-oh. Well, that's one way to get everybody to attend your meetings, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so how else?
That I have to chuckle. That's what happened in ours. Our members told me, put all the names in the hat and pull somebody out. And now I'm dealing with the emotions of that. So it's not the best thing, but it was an expedient decision.
We have a committee of past presidents that get together and then we kind of think about who would be a good candidate to be a president-elect. And we kind of have a lunch meeting with that individual and try to convince them that this is probably great for them and that they would be fantastic for the job and encourage them to take on the challenge. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but if we find that the person isn't willing to do it now, we ask them, are they willing to do it the next year or the year after? So that way you start getting your 2 deep, 3 deep, or 4 deep. And that way you just, it's really hard to try to get somebody to become president-elect 3 months before they're supposed to be president. So try to do that as early as possible, but don't take no for this.
Okay, Davey froze up.
That might be a possibility also.
Okay, thank you. Good advice. Carla, how do you do it in Waikiki? Or Jerry?
Sorry, Naomi, was that question directed towards me? My speakers are weird.
Jerry, how do you elect your officers?
I just sort of find their strengths and I take them out to coffee or lunch and I bribe them with either caffeine or food. And I do the sandwich method. I tell them why they would be good and why they would be better in this position. And I just kind of give them the option to not say no. That's how I elect them.
Right. I like that method.
Anybody else?
It gets results, I bet.
Okay, so
Yeah. It gets better results during our happy hour.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so it's 8 o'clock. So think about how you do your nominating committee, how you elect your officers, and you really want to try and be inclusive and build up that bench on future leaders. So having a plan on developing your future leaders, you as with the club Alakai, encouraging people to go to training, you have stronger people on your board. Okay, so we're at 8 o'clock, Benson. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, well, another hour just sort of flies by when you're having fun. So I hope the information was was useful to you. So I'll just I can see everybody was on this call tonight. If you want a set of those slides, I'll fix it so there's not 2 5s. I'll send it out to you and we'll keep working on it because we're all just sort of this work in progress. So appreciate all of your time tonight and what you do for the district. It takes a lot of commitment to give up your evening and come and hang out with us. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you. Go to Singapore because me and Zeta are going to Singapore. Okay, see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.